y'all, this is Chastity. This is going to be my first actual video besides the intro for the Ask Chastity video. Sorry, I was reading a text message. The question that got the most votes was from That White Girl 97, and she asked, what were your initial thoughts when you found out you were pregnant, and how did you tell your parents? So, my thoughts when I found out I was pregnant, I was really overwhelmed. I didn't know whether to cry. I didn't know whether to be, be angry. I didn't know how to feel. I was just really overwhelmed, and every thought possible filled my head. So the best word to describe how I felt would have to be overwhelmed. So those were my initial thoughts when I found out I was pregnant. And how did I tell my parents? I actually told my mom first that I was pregnant. I'll tell you the story of how it happened. This is probably the easiest way for me to explain to you how I told them. So I bought the test. I was with my parents, and at the time I had a job, so I had my own money, and I usually just go look around the store by myself anyways, so it wasn't unusual that I would just go off by myself. So I went, and I had a feeling that I was pregnant because my boobs were sore and I had missed my period. So I thought that I was most likely pregnant. I knew that I needed to get a test because I got pregnant at the beginning of December, and this was the beginning of January. So it had been a month, and I knew that I needed to take this test because I knew that it most likely could be positive. So I went off on my own, and I went to the pregnancy test aisle, and I literally stood in the aisle for 30 minutes trying to decide what test I was going to get, if I should even get a test, trying to talk myself out of the thought that I could be pregnant. And so I basically stood in the pregnancy test aisle for 30 minutes pondering. And then I couldn't decide whether to get a box with 2 tests or 1 test. So I decided to go the cheaper route because this girl's on a budget. So I got the little Equate one with 1 in it. It was $5, I don't know. So I went home, and my period is always irregular. So I thought I was going to wait all the month of January and then see if my period had come, and if it did, then I was going to take it. So I'd already be 2 months pregnant. But anyways, so I bought the test January 6th. I went and bought it, and then I put it in my purse. And then I got home, I put it under my bed, and the next day I could not wait any longer. I had to know. It was eating away at me. So I took the test, and I went to the bathroom. My mom was the only one home. My dad was doing a wedding, and my sister was in college. So I was the only one. Me and my mom were the only ones home, and she was in the kitchen making something to eat. So I went to the bathroom, and I took the test, and I set it down on the floor, and I walked away from it, all the way to the other side of the room. And it said 3 minutes, so I was waiting. I looked at my phone, waiting on for it to be 3 minutes. So it had been 3 minutes, and I walked over the walk of shame. I walked slow, walked really slow, and I looked down at it, and it was a little plus sign, and I was what? I don't think I'm seeing this right. And I was rubbing my eyes, making sure that I was not imagining things and hallucinating. So I was getting in different lighting and looking at it really well, and it was those lines were there. Like they weren't faint. Like they were dark lines. I was definitely pregnant. So then I put it back in the box and I shoved it back under my bed, and I paced my room for like 5 minutes, and I was like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? Like, I can't tell my parents. I can't tell anyone. I don't know what to do. I was freaking out. So I couldn't decide if I needed to get another pregnancy test to make sure that I was pregnant or what. So I called Han's dad, and I called him and I said, I have something to tell you. And he was like, what? And I was like, I'm pregnant. And he was like, you're kidding me. I was like, no, I'm not kidding. I am for sure. And he was like, what? And I was like, I said, I don't want to talk about it right now. I'm going to go tell my mom. And I hung up on him. So I went to the kitchen. My mom was making food. And I kind of just stood there for a little bit and didn't say anything. I just stared at her, trying to figure out how I was going to say this. I knew there was no easy way to say it. So I was just trying to think, you know, how could I tell her? So I said, Mom, can I talk to you about something? And she said that, she told me later on that she knew exactly when I said that I was going to tell her something that, you know, wasn't good. So she was like, yeah. And I said, okay, but you got to promise me you won't be mad at me. And then she started freaking out, and she was like, what, Chastity, what is it? And I was like, you're going to be so mad at me. And I just started bawling. Oh, no. I started bawling. Well, I said, you're going to be so mad at me. And she said, just tell me. And then I burst out crying and said, I'm pregnant. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I bet you hate me. And I was being all emotional, and she hugged me. And, you know, she was asking all the questions, like, what? How'd this happen? When did it happen? She was asking, you know, all these questions. She was just in shock. So, yeah, that's how I told my mom. And, like I said, my dad wasn't there. So, I didn't want to tell my dad. I wanted my mom to tell him. So, she agreed that she would tell him when he got home. So, I was in my room, laying in my bed, and he came home. My mom took him in their bedroom, and she was like, she told me this later on because, you know, I wasn't in the room, but she told me later on what happened. She said that she took him in the room, and she said, Chastity is pregnant, and my mom said that he started crying and said, no, not my baby, not my baby. So then he came in my room, and I was laying in my bed. I had like the covers over my head, and my dad came in, and he like walked in and stood by my bed, and I got up and he hugged me, and we just stood there hugging and crying on each other. And he said, it's gonna be okay, baby, it's gonna be okay, we're gonna get through this. And that's how I told my parents. So yeah, I hope this answered your question. Thank you for asking it. And so now it is time for the Ask Chastity, the second Ask Chastity video. So anyone who wants to know anything, wants advice on anything, or wants me to talk about anything, post it below. And if your comment gets the most votes, then that means that your comment is the one that I'm going to be making a video on. So thank you, That White Girl 97, for this question. I hope it was answered, and I will talk to you guys in my next Ask Chastity video. Thank you guys for watching this. Bye!